Good morning. Good morning from Whitefish, Montana. And I wanted to say thank you for joining me. Here in Whitefish, we've had that storm on the Pacific Northwest, so we have this sort of tumultuous weather going on outside. It's been windy, it's been raining nonstop, and I'm not going out there because I know as soon as I set my camera up, it's going to start raining again. So this is my first attempt at doing it inside, but I wanted to sort of play with the light a little bit. So I apologize if I'm a little bit in the dark, but I wanted to be able to show you that tree that we did last week and what it feels like. So welcome. Today what we're going to do, hi Rachel. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about managing expectations and the concept of expectations. And I have to admit, the way that I have always prepared, and for those of you who may not know, I did a radio show for 7 years, and we would do it on Wednesday, and I would sort of start on Saturday or Sunday like, ooh, what are we going to talk about this week? And it was really a battle of expectations. I have to have something to talk about, and surrender, which is I will know when it happens. I will know what the topic is. And so I just wait for the topic to land. And when the topic lands, I go, well, there it is. Ha! There it is. I know what we're going to talk about. So when this managing expectations came in earlier this week, I thought, oh, piece of cake. This is that old clutter busting, mom simplicity going, let's just talk about how when the holidays come, they start derailing us into our expectations, our children's expectations, our family's expectations, and they take us for a ride. And I thought, that's going to be easy. And as the days have been going through, and even this morning, I'm realizing that managing expectations is a multidimensional topic. There's no other way around it. So to start with, let's identify what we mean by an expectation. So an expectation is a belief that something is supposed to happen in the future. That if I work really hard, if I put my focus there, if I go in that direction, I'm going to get there. So this is what, somebody from my own coaching site just said hi there. I like that. So it's a belief that's centered on the future, and it may or may not happen, and it may or may not happen the way we want it to, but it's very future and goal oriented. And so, what I thought is on the most simple level, I'm going to do 3 today. So on the simplest level, expectations are learned as a culture. They're what we sort of get into when it comes to our long-term goals, how we motivate and limit ourselves. And so it might be like, I expect that my body's going to be this certain way throughout my lifetime. And anytime that it changes, I'm going to be very disappointed and drop into some sort of emotional reaction. It can also be really, really simple. Like, I expect that you guys are going to put yourself to bed at a certain time. I expect that you're going to know what you want to be when you grow up. I expect what we're going to do over the holidays. And so there's this like short-term hold onto what we want to do, and a lot of attention on that expectation. And then all of our energy goes into making that happen. So we're going to get to that. So let's just talk. There's our expectation. On the simplest form, it could be that our children, and I'm going to speak to children and families today, but it's not limited at all to parenting, is what happens when we start doing this thing in October and November, which is, Christmas is coming. We have to get ready because we're going to be on a plane flying to my parents' house, or we have company coming, or we have a lot of commitments that we have to do, and it's about managing, and all of a sudden all the stress gets up. And what we don't realize is our expectation is stuck on that holiday. And when that holiday is controlling everything, then we start to manipulate, and we start to motivate others, and we start to move them in line with our expectations. So on the simplest form, now I know that it sounds like it's huge, but that's really expectations on the simplest form, is we have a short target date out there and we start driving everything towards it. Or we have a long-term, lifelong goal that we hold on to and we drive everything towards it. So the point is that we line ourselves up to meet that expectation. On the next level, we layer our expectations with with patterns and things that we learned as a child. So we layer our expectations based on what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about our role. So an example might be schoolwork, that I am only a good person if I have B pluses or A's. And when I get a traditional B, I'm not very good. Or I can't seem to get my grades above a C or D, and my entire family is constantly disappointed with me. You know, it could be schoolwork. It could be relationships. I thought I would be married by 30. I thought I would have children by now. Career. You know, I went to school to be a doctor. Damn it, I'm going to be a doctor no matter what happens. Or I went to school with this degree, and if I don't use it, who am I? And then we get into sort of this layering of, I'm going to set a target out there and I'm going to work towards it. And then I'm going to make all the pieces fall into place. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get the perfect job. I don't like my job. I don't know why I even want to be here, but I need to pay for a mortgage. I need to pay for my car. I need to pay for these things. And so what happens is we set these long-term goals. And then again, we start to manipulate and motivate the people in our life to meet those. And they're like benchmarks that are all along our life towards these expectations. And then at the deepest, most quantum level of expectations that are moving around us all the time is that we set a trajectory out into the future that says, by the time I'm 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, I will be blah. And all of our life, energy, and force is going towards creating that trajectory of the future. And that kind of sort of came up for me. This summer I was out on the East Coast, spent some time in Boston and in New Hampshire, Vermont, with my dear friend Kristen, who I hope you're watching. I know she will. She always does. And I got on the plane in Boston and flew to Seattle. And I sat next to a student from the University of Washington who was from China, who had just completed a vacation with his family. And he was talkative and informative. And I, as an educator, was like, well, tell me a little bit more about the Chinese education system and what your life has been like. And so what we discussed was that from the time that he was in kindergarten or first grade, he was identified as a scientist, and he was in rigorous classes with 75 other students, going class by class, year by year, to prepare him for not only high school completion, not only a bachelor's, not only a master's, but eventually a PhD in this form of science. And we were talking about the pros and cons of all of that. And at one point I said, because I think he was combining biology with astrology, or astronomy. And I thought that was an interesting combination. But I said, so what if this trajectory is off and you want to do something different? And his face kind of went like, off? How could it ever be off? How could I ever not work towards this? And I thought, this is a perfect example. Is what happens when we have a trajectory out there and we have a goal, an expectation that we're going to get there. And then the bigger part of it is that what happens when these expectations are matched with attachment, like inflexibility, the inability to adapt or change. And we're hearing the voices of our parents. So we have expectations, we have attachment, we have patterns. And when these three start playing, their game with us, then we get stuck into this place of, oh my God, I've got a trajectory of who I want to be, an attachment to the way I get there, and I'm using all of my past training, all my past experiences, to start sort of tapping me on the shoulder to saying on track, off track, on track, off track. We have voices of our parents, the voices of our professors, the voices of our friends who are like, you're going to do that? What? And it takes away our flexibility. So what happens when we change our expectations for better or for worse? Are these changed expectations what they're meant to be? Excellent question, Ted. So the idea is that we are able to change our expectations. And so the first thing that I want to say is that more important than anything is being able to identify that we have expectations. So if you have some time today or tomorrow or over the next kind of quiet next 2 days, because we're just coming out of a full moon, so we're sort of open and we're sort of available. So do it now. In fact, do it Sunday if you can today. Find out what your expectations are. Write them down. Write down the 3 or 4 or 10 expectations that you have in your life that sort of are always ongoing, and see what you uncover. Okay? So know your expectations. Really identify, where did they come from? Are they mine or are they someone else's? You know, did I marry somebody who was really good at telling me where I needed to go, so I just sort of adopted hers or his? Did I come out of college and listen to my professor who said, you're perfect at this? So, it says, yep, my connection's weak. Whoops. A professor that said, this is your greatest skill. You need to go this direction. And you went, oh, okay. And you just went that way. So find out if those expectations are even yours. Who knows? They might not be. Are they your parents? Or do they morph and do they change? And how did they change? You know, how do you identify how far out they are? Okay. And then when there's attachment is when we're attached to something to perform in a certain way. We're attached to a certain outcome. We're attached to a certain result. And when we the way that I kept seeing it is like, we have this expectation that this is who I want to be when I grow up. And then we build this like training wheels sort of, can't even think of the word right now. We build this structure around it to support it to go that way. And that's, the more we build that structure, we cement in our path, whether it's where we choose to live, how we take out a mortgage, how we build our family and our lifestyle around that exact trajectory, instead of keeping things open and flexible and saying, for right now, this is where I want to be. Maybe that will change. Maybe it won't. But you see what I'm saying is that we develop this sort of cemented in foundation that says, you got this. And we've got all the support systems around this expectation. And so it keeps it very rigid and it keeps it very inflexible. So the example I'll use is that I work with, one of the things I love is when I work with parents who have kids in therapeutic programs, because these kids started wobbling anywhere between 5 years old, 6 years old, sometimes at the beginning of middle school, sometimes when they hit high school. Sometimes it's from learning challenges. Sometimes it's from anxiety, phobias, issues. Sometimes it's from self-medicating. Sometimes it's from being able to not even identify with the path that their parents expect them to be on, and becoming very frozen and doing school refusal and staying in their rooms or getting lost in video games. These are the kinds of things that happen when we have a child who isn't seen for what's going on with them, and a parent who's trying their hardest to figure out how to see them and provide for them, but they also have their own set of expectations. So often I have a kiddo who has been struggling in school for 3 and 4 years, has a piecemeal transcript, may not have a lot of grades, may even have some classes that they dropped or dropped out of school in order to go to wilderness or do this or that. What I have to do all the time is pry those expectations of high school graduation, diploma, their senior year, this is what it's going to be, out of the hands of the parents, and gently say, obviously we're co-creating something different. So how do we let go of those expectations and move into something more? When we have an expectation, we get rigid, we shut down other people, other paths, we become rocked, like I said, cemented into that foundation. So the tips for today Yeah, I'm running along. This is a good one. And I'm going to keep coming after this topic because it's not going to go away. It's super important. To change your expectations, number one is to loosen your grip on the way that things are. Realize that maybe all of my information up until this point has been good, but there's more information out there. I'm curious as to where that information is going to come from and what it's going to look like. Allow new information to come in. Actually become a receptive human being rather than a defended human being, sort of open and saying, I wonder what I'm intended to do, what I'm intended to be. I wonder what my child needs from me today. I wonder what my partner needs from me today. And it's literally loosening that hand grip on how we hold on to things and become a lot more flexible. Redefine how you see each day. The single most important tip that I will leave you with today is the ability to change the way we think when we start our day. So I'll give you an example. One of my favorite things to do is get up in the morning and sort of stretch and get ready for the day, and then go open the blinds and let the sunlight in and see what the day is. And sort of as I open those blinds, I go, I can hardly wait to see how this day unfolds. I can hardly wait to see who shows up. I can't even imagine what direction my life may go. However, I trust that it'll go where it needs to go. And so I have this sort of like optimistic, I can hardly wait to see what happens. So expectations, they're huge. They're really, really complex. And the more that we break them down and the more we start to work with them, we get out of whether they're negative or positive, whether they work for us or they don't. As long as we have some awareness, we know what to do with them. So if you'd like some assistance with that, or you'd like to just chat, you can always call me, email me, text me on Facebook, and let's talk. You can also find me on DeniseDrydenCoaching.com on the web, and I look forward to hearing from you if you have questions. So enjoy your Sunday, enjoy your week, start exploring your expectations. Take care. Bye-bye.